Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics preview show. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our show where we're going to go over roughly 20, give or take, new books coming out this week that you can go to your store and pick up. We want to give you kind of the most information to arm you with, so when you go into your store, you know exactly what you're going for. It helps everybody else, helps us, helps you, help each other.
Help us help you, and we'll help you help yourselves.
Exactly. But this is a pretty interesting week.
It's a good week,
Some
yeah.
kind of surprising books.
Surprises, yeah.
I'd say surprises is the key word for this one. Some good surprises for sure with books that I was like, I'm reading this one, but I could go either way,
Yeah,
and then I'd read them and be like, whoa, this is really cool.
yeah.
So very cool stuff. I want to remind you right at the beginning of the show that you can go over to our website, infinityflux.net, and use the code I love Flux at checkout and get 10% off your first order.
That's right.
So if you need more incentive to check us out, there you go, 10% off your first order. Make it a good one. So let's get into this week's books.
Going to start with Immortal Thor #1. So this is the much ballyhooed new series of Thor written by Al
I thought
Ewing.
I heard some ballyhoos out in the distance.
There's a lot of people ballyhooing outside over this. Yeah, Al Ewing's new Thor series. This is the first appearance of a new villain called Tauros. Hope I'm pronouncing that properly. But even outside of a first appearance of a new villain, there's a lot going on in this, and this does feel like a kind of a back to basics for Thor, meaning that he's kind of sort of in his classic costume, a slight alteration here and there, but he's mostly in his classic costume. Mjolnir's all repaired; it's not cracked anymore. We even get the return of the Rainbow Bridge, and there's a little something to that too. But the beginning is really fun. He's back in Asgard. There are these frost giants that have made it like this blizzard come through in the desert of Asgard, and Thor shows up, and instead of fighting them, he tells the storm itself, "I'm disappointed in you." And the frost giants thinks he's talking to them. He says, "No, I'm the god of storms. I'm talking to that storm. Hey, you storm, go away." And it did. Like it just stopped snowing just because Thor told it to. Is really fun. Um, Loki shows up and helps Thor restore the Rainbow Bridge, like I mentioned. But he lies about how he's able to do it, and there's a Loki's playing at something because during this whole time, Loki's smiling at Thor, but then when Thor turns around, Loki's very subdued, and he's thinking like, there's one point where he thinks to himself, "I'm sorry, Thor." So we don't know what yet. So more to come on that. But Loki is playing at something, and I have no idea what it is. But once the Rainbow Bridge is back, Thor goes back to Earth. He just wants to go revisit all of his friends. And there's a nice big sequence of showing how the people of Earth. He mentions that they don't worship him, but they admire and respect him as a member of the Avengers, as someone who has saved the world, that kind of thing. So everybody's really happy with him. So that's about 3/4 of the book, and all through this, I was wondering, it's like, all right, this is good, but where is it going? What is the story here?
Yeah.
I turned the page, and there is a 2-page spread that made me audibly exclaimed, "Oh, what?" And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's something pretty big.
Pretty massive.
Yeah, pretty massive. Yeah, and there's pretty shocking,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's it there's multiple 2-page spreads of just this big thing, and this is where we see the new villain Tauros. And I won't talk anything more about that because it was really good reading that all, like trying to figure all this out. So I don't want to say anything more. But we do know that there are really powerful forces at play here, like maybe something higher level than even gods are. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of big stuff coming. Still don't know how it's all going to play out, but it was just a really really interesting issue. Like I'm not even the biggest reader of Thor as it comes out. I always tend to go back much later and catch up on stuff. But this, once I saw that 2-page spread, I was hooked. Like I've got to see what happens. So a really good start, a really interesting start to a brand new Thor series. So if you're a Thor fan, I think you are really going to like this one. Like I said, it was really once you get to that page, and you know what I'm talking about when you see it, really, really good. So there's our A cover right there. We got a bunch of variants for this too. We have our George Perez variant right there. We got another Miss Minutes variant. They're still coming, so we're gonna see her pretty soon. We have this Francis Maniple variant. Very cool there. We have a Brian Hitch variant with
Donald Blake.
that is Don Blake. Yeah, I don't know. Don Blake is not in this issue, so don't let that fool you. But
I'm never quite sure what the current status of Donald Blake
yeah,
is.
I'm not sure. This one is really cool. So this nice foil variant. The whole thing's not. Oh, you can see it real good right there. Like it's just like the glowy bits that are metal or that are foil. Now, what was the deal with this, real quick? So we want to tell you real quick too. On the
Yeah.
back of this, it says it's $6.99.
Right, but that's actually kind of a misprint from Marvel. That's what we paid for it as a
Right.
store. So your prices may vary per your store, but it'll probably be a little bit more than that. So don't be mad if your store has priced it up. That's the reason. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just expect a little bit more than.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than the $6.99 on the cover, but don't be mad at the store. That was kind of a little bit of Marvel's bad there, but it's still a very cool. Like it's worth it. I mean, it's a really
Yeah.
cool foil cover. And then we have this 1 in 25 Stonehouse variant that we are selling for $25. Really good first issue. That was really good. I
Yeah,
liked it a lot.
you've sold it for me
Yeah,
because I've been off and on Thor, just depending on the creative teams or what's going on with Thor. And this one, you showed me a few pages, like, okay, I probably need to be reading this one.
yeah,
This one seems really
yeah.
cool.
It's one of those where at the end I was like, I really want to see what happens
Yeah.
next. I really want to see.
Okay, so first up for me is actually a last up for the series. This
Whoa.
is Dawn of DC Night Terrors #4. So a lot to say about this. This is the final issue of the 4-issue Night Terrors miniseries. Now, if you remember, it actually kicked off with First Blood.
Hmm.
That was the kind of the bookend at the beginning, and we are getting a bookend at the end coming out next week
Yep.
with
Knight's End.
Knight's End.
Why isn't it Last Blood?
I
If it
just want to
started
say
with First
Final
Blood,
Blood or
yeah,
Last Blood or something.
that's
Yeah,
what Rambo
Knight's
did.
End. So this I'll say is this is the end of the meat of the story.
Mm.
In this one we have uh our three heroes. We've got Deadman inside Batman's body. We've got Damien. We've got Wesley Dodds Sandman. Who I love that this has been. We didn't know when they brought Sandman in. It's like, oh, he's going to be in it for like an issue, or
Yeah,
he's going to just for a little thing. No, he's a key player in all
he's
of
been
this,
in it. Yeah,
which I love. And they are heading into the Arkham Tower that has been very nightmareified,
right.
because they learned that is where Insomnia, his body is, his physical
Yeah, his
form
human
is
body. Yeah,
still in kind of his cell inside that. So they're going to take the Nightmare Stone there to finally defeat Insomnia. It's really interesting. It's definitely like the closer they get, the harder it is. Damien's starting to fall asleep, so he doesn't know. He's kind of popping in and out of dreams, and they're trying to keep him awake and keep him going, which
yeah,
is really fun to see. But they eventually do get to uh, Insomnia's room where he's laying on a bed, asleep, and that's when Dead Man goes inside of Insomnia's nightmare to finally defeat him. And that's when we learn the true, I guess, origin story of Insomnia, why he hates the Justice
yeah,
League, what his ultimate plan is, what he's going to do. All of that is revealed, which I thought was a really interesting reveal
yeah.
and a very kind of poignant reveal. Like, we even learned like kind of when all this took place because he does mention with the Justice League
That's right. That's
they're
right.
fighting a bunch of different Batmen. So it's like
Yeah,
I'm guessing it's during Death
metal or death
Metal.
metal. Yeah,
Yeah, one of those. That it was just a really cool thing. But uh I'm not gonna give away the ending, but it's not as easy as it sounds. They don't just go in there and slap him around and he's done, because there is that um one more issue that's going to kind of be the culmination of everything.
yeah,
But this does set that up really well, and I'm excited for people to read this. I thought it was a great issue, and I think next week we'll have the kind of the final like overarching here's how we thought about night terrors
Yep.
type thing. But also did want to mention that along with this, we'll be going over some night terrors books, some of the issue twos. But this basically, other than the one book next week, wraps up night terrors.
Yeah, yeah. This week is the end of Night Terrors, except for the one final
Yeah,
book that comes out next Tuesday.
right. So just a little information there, but a great final installment in the four-issue run. We've also got some variants. So we've got this Common Coley variant. We've got this Wingard variant. We've got this Ivan Rice variant, the kind of black light variants. And this really awesome. This is
Yeah,
the 1 in
that's really
25
cool.
Robertson variant. They were selling for only $15, but that just looks like a straight up like old cover from I don't.
Yeah, it's an homage. I don't remember what the issue of. I think it's Detective Comics. I don't remember the
Mhm.
issue number though. So let us know in the comments if you
I
know.
love the old DC logo up there. Just really cool.
All right, so sticking with DC for a minute, the Penguin #1, a new mini series. I think it's 6 issues, written by Tom King, art by Raphael De La Torre. Um, and another one we're talking about good surprises. When I first heard about this, even I said like, really, do we need it? Do we really need a Penguin miniseries? But this one was really good. Like I was really taken aback with it. It starts out with Batman and the Penguin. They're all shot up, they're all cut up, they're all beaten up, and they're in the Batmobile, which is all busted up in the middle of the Gotham River. And it even Batman is like, this is it. Like we're done. Like there's no way out whatsoever. And I was trying to think like, wait, when did all this happen? And then like you turn the page, it's like page 3 or whatever. And it's like 1 year ago. So it's like, oh, so this is where they're going to end up. Now we got to figure out how to get there. But that's not even really what the story's about, at least not for right now. But when we jump back to 1 year earlier, which is actually more present day, we do see that the Penguin, Oswald, he's going to he is now living in Metropolis after all of the stuff that happened in the first run, the first story arc from Zdarsky in the Batman title. He's retired. He's living a quiet life in Metropolis. He's just going about his daily routine. He goes to the tailor at the first of every month. He goes and gets a hot dog at his hot dog stand around the corner. He goes and sits in the park and feeds the birds.
He's
Just
living the retirement life.
he is a retired penguin, right? Well, except that he's under surveillance by the federal government by this agent named Nuri Espinoza, and through the issue, she's narrating everything. She's the one telling us what his routine is because they've watched him for so long as he's doing his routines. Like he rounds the corner every day at 3 o'clock and gets a hot or whatever. So we're hearing her thoughts about this. What's also really interesting about this is he's very subdued. Like there's all these things that in the past maybe would set off the penguin, but this he just kind of brushes off. Like his tailor says, "Oh, you look like you've lost a lot of weight." But then the tailor thinks, "Oh gosh, I shouldn't have said that." He's gonna get so mad, and then he's like, "Oh no, I just meant. I mean, you always look good. It's just that you look even better." Oh gosh, I shouldn't have said that. He's gonna get so mad, and Penguin's like, "Thanks," or this one of the undercover agents has been watching him. They bump into him in the park on purpose as to try to like test him. He's like, hey, they get all up in his face, and he's like, sorry about that. His fiance is late for dinner, and he's like, no worries, no problem. This guy comes into his flower shop and is super rude to him and is talking really disparagingly about his own wife. Like he's a real big jerk, and Penguin's like, maybe this isn't the shop for you. Maybe you should leave. Like he's just very calm about everything. Well, eventually, Agent Espinoza busts into his flower shop, takes him into custody, and she leaves him in the interrogation room for a week.
Oh my god.
She says he gets three square meals a day and a bucket for his bodily needs, and other than that, that's it. But he's still totally calm. She says he never checks the door to see if it's locked or not. He never tries to break out or whatever. Like he's just very calm about the whole thing. And then she finally comes in and she tells him, "You work for us now, and you are going to go back to Gotham. You're going to worm your way back into your old life, and you're going to make all this money through all these, nefarious means that you used to do. But we control all your money. We control you now. You're going to report back to us about everything." Um, And even after that, even after she tells him that, he very calmly walks out the door and she says, he didn't ask us what the next steps were. He didn't like, he just very. So this whole time, I'm thinking, like, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, is he like mentally taking notes? And I feel like that's what's going to happen. Like, eventually he's going to say, "Hey, remember me? Remember when you bumped into me in the park, stab or whatever."
Yeah.
Like, I'm just waiting for. Um, and at the end, something happens, and we think, and that makes me think maybe that is going to happen at some point. But yeah, I mean, he is going to go back to Gotham and work for the federal government. We don't know in what capacity yet. We do see who Espinoza works for, but I won't say who. I don't know if it's really a spoiler or a surprise, but I'll leave that to you to find out. But it was just really good. Like, it was really kind of like I had this feeling of dread the whole time. Like, oh gosh, when is he gonna like flip a switch and
Yeah.
go off on everybody? And it never happens, at least not in this issue. So just a really good, another really solid Tom King book. I really enjoyed this. This is another one. Was like, I really want to see what happens next. So I recommend this one, just for a more ground level crime noir kind of book. This is a good one. So we have our A cover right here. We got a few variants as well. This really cool Brian Bolland variant, really classic looking penguin there. We have this Nathan Zerdy variant. What does that say? Straight out of Gotham. Very cool. And then we have this David Marquez variant. So this is your agent Espinoza right there. She's the one who basically takes him into custody. She's been through some stuff. She's missing an eye. She's got a scar from where that happened. But yeah, very nice cover. But yeah, this was a really pleasant surprise as well.
Yeah. Because that was kind of one of the books of like, why is Penguin getting a book? It
Yeah,
just kind of felt like this is out of nowhere. But
but it's really
but
good.
it sounds like, oh, because Tom King had a story to tell.
That's right.
And that's when you should have a book, is when someone
Yeah.
has a story to
Tom
tell.
King very clearly has a story that he's going to tell
That's
here. It's
awesome.
awesome.
Okay, so next up for me is another surprise that I had. This is Jean Grey #1. So this is a new mini series. This is by the classic writer Louise Simonson, and the art is by Bernard Chang. And I didn't know what going into this, but I had read the Hellfire Gala issue, which, just spoilers, Jean Grey dies in that.
Again.
Again, and that's kind of the point of this, is it actually begins with Jean Grey lying there, and the caption is basically like, this is not nothing new for Jean Grey. She's died before. She'll probably die again. It's just kind of the manner of this happening that's what's at stake here. But Jean is thinking, somehow all of this going wrong has to be my fault. You know, I don't know if that's just kind of like, I don't think it's her fault, I mean, yeah, this whole Krakoa era, she was in the front of that, but there's a lot of people
Oh yeah, it
involved in
wasn't all
that.
just her. Yeah.
But I don't know if this is just kind of mentally how she blames everything on herself. But as she's lying there, she's like, "Where did it go wrong?" And it's kind of, I guess, insinuated by how this is told, that it's part of her psychic abilities, that she can kind of reach back into her mind uh, as she's dying, and she is going to try to figure out where did it all go wrong and where was the tipping point that led to this outcome. So she thinks, was it when my powers first manifested and I saved my friend from getting hit by a car? She's like, no, because my powers would have come out one way or another. Was it when I got invited to Xavier's Institute? She's like, no, that was a really good thing that happened. But the interesting thing is, she thinks, what about uh, the time where, when we were young students, and Beast from the future came back and brought us to the future with him. And if you're a reader of X-Men, you know that is the storyline for all new X-Men.
Yeah.
Brian Michael Bendis's run,
Yep.
Stuart Immonen, where they brought the original young X-Men to the future, and Cyclops met Cyclops and a lot of that stuff. And she said, you know, that happened. We got pulled to the future. We went on a lot of adventures. Our powers like got a lot stronger. And then Cable brought us back to the past and said we need to erase everyone's minds of that adventure we just went on, so everything in the timeline goes correctly. Well, she says, what if I didn't erase our minds, and what if we had those memories of our future adventures and everything bad that was coming? We knew who was going to be villains, who was going to betray us. what mutants would, we would basically know before a mutant manifested their powers who they were. What if we knew all that stuff? Could we like realign the trajectory of this? And so that's what this story is kind of a retelling of the early years of the X-Men, but with Jean Grey basically knowing everything,
Yeah.
all the X-Men knowing, all the core team, and what could she do to kind of prevent these future things? And was this a good thing? Or does this kind of the godlike knowledge that she has actually make things worse? So it's really interesting to kind of relive some classic X-Men things, their fight with Magneto. But what if she's so powerful now because of her future training that she could just, you know, Magneto's no problem.
Yeah.
She just pops his helmet off and basically messes with his mind, and they beat him. But this power definitely is a dangerous thing for Jean Grey to have, and it feels like every issue of this is we're gonna see a possible kind of. It's not. I wouldn't say it's an alternate timeline, but it's Jean kind of working through. Well, what if this happened at this point? Where's the opportune moment where we could have prevented the whole Krakoa era from
Yeah.
happening. So the art is fantastic. Bernard Chang's art.
Yeah,
This
he's
feels
great.
like a AAA title
Mhm.
for comics with this team working on it. And I just thought this was really excellent. A lot of really thought provoking things about kind of foreknowledge and all of that with Gene. And I'm very interested to see what are some of the future moments that could have possibly been the moments where
So is that what
this.
this miniseries is going to be about? Is like the next issue is another
I
possible
believe
thing, and
so, because
that's
I'm not giving anything away here to say like that this timeline that she figures out is not the correct one to
okay.
fix things, and you see how maybe it went wrong. So just recommend this one. It was kind of coming out of nowhere. I didn't really know what this was going to be about.
Sounds like this
Um,
should have been a what if
it's
miniseries.
almost a what if, but like a what if in continuity.
Yeah,
It's like within the mind of Jean Grey, a what if.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely check this one out if you are a fan of the character, classic X-Men stuff, and I think people will really enjoy it. It also felt longer than normal. I don't know if it is, but I maybe it was just I was enjoying it and I was really taking my time, kind of chewing through
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So yeah, recommend Jean Grey #1. Got some variants for this as well. We have the George Perez variant. We've got this Derek Chew
Ooh,
variant.
I like that one.
And another Miss Minutes cover. This is by Chrissy Zullo. She better be for all these variant covers with Miss Minutes. I want her like scene 1 of the Loki season 2 just
Yeah,
be Miss Minutes. Be like,
she needs to be just a main character,
yeah,
in the whole thing. All right, so we're gonna move on to Image. This is the Schlub #1. I love that title. So written by Kenny Porter and Ryan Stegman, but Ryan Stegman's not on art, so he's doing writing duties on this, which is really cool. Art by Tyrell Cannon. The the very opening sentence of this is Roger Dalton, and actually this is Roger Dalton right here. He's the Schlub basically. The opening sentence is, "This is Roger Dalton. He sucks," and I thought that was really funny. So he is a failing dentist. His practice is going under. He's divorced. He doesn't have a good relationship with his brother or his father. They have a good relationship with each other, but not with him. So he's kind of like the outcast of the family. Um, on the flip side of that, you have this guy. His name is Cirrus, and he is kind of sort of like the Superman archetype of this story. He's the world's greatest hero, most famous hero. Everybody loves him. Well, Cirrus is one day in the middle of a procedure. Cirrus is fighting this villain named Worm, who is the master of the dark, and they're fighting over this mystical relic. And during their fight, they actually bust into Roger's his office. Tear the walls down and everything. And so Roger actually picks up the relic while the other guys are fighting. And he's like, maybe it's time I did something or whatever. And he pushes this button on the relic right when Cirrus jumps in to grab him to prevent him from doing that. And that causes them to swap bodies. So now Roger, the schlubby guy here, now is in the body of Cirrus and has all of his powers, and vice versa. But Worm, the bad guy, is still right there too. So Cirrus in Roger's body is trying to tell him, hey, you got to do this, you got to be careful, you got to, try this and that and the other thing. And And of course, Roger in Sirius's body, he's not good at any of it, but he keeps falling over himself during the fight and that kind of thing. Well, eventually, Worm is defeated, or he retreats. He's defeated enough to where he leaves, basically. And Roger and Cirrus, again, in each other's bodies, they agree that they do need to work together to try to reverse this. They agree to keep everything secret, even from the other heroes in the world, which we don't meet. But I guess this is another. I guess it's a Justice League type thing. And they said we just need to keep this a secret from everybody until we figure out what's how to undo this. And then Cirrus, who again is in Roger's body, he's like, I'm going to go back to wherever, and I'm going to read up on this relic to see if I can figure out what's going on. And you be careful because you are now basically in control of a nuclear bomb. Essentially, you've got all these powers, and if you do the wrong thing, millions of people could die because you're so powerful. And Roger in Serious Body's like, oh yeah, sure, no worries, no problem. But we get a little bit of an indication that maybe Roger doesn't want to give up this new body so quickly because again, he was kind of a loser before, and now he is a god essentially. So it was really funny. It was a really enjoyable read. I really want to see what happens. How they manage to swap back with each other if they do at all, or maybe Roger develops a sense of responsibility or something. But it was really really fun. So I really like that quite a bit. So that is the Schlub number one. That is our A cover. And we also have this 1 in 10 Canon Virgin variant that we're selling for $10. It's the same as the A cover, but it is a nice Virgin variant. All that good artwork.
And before we go any further, just wanted to remind you, you can head over to infinityflux.net right now, where you can order any of these books we're talking about as they are still available. You can pre-order books, sign up for your own subscription. Everything that you pre-order, you get 10% off of. And don't forget that code that is available. That is I love Flux at checkout, and get your first order with an additional 10% off if it's those sync up that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, just overall a fantastic deal over at infinityflux.net. So moving on with my next one, which is Big Game number 2. So I can't go on about this one for too long without giving away a lot of
Yeah.
spoilers about it. But my general feelings about this, so this is the Mark Miller shared universe book, where the villains who have been running the world since I think like 1985 or something like
Something like that.
that, um, they erase everybody's mind that superheroes existed, and they want to keep it that way, even though some new superheroes have started emerging. And of course, this crosses over all of their titles, all of Mark Miller's titles. The art in this is by Pepe Larraz, which is fantastic. And this issue continues some of the craziness. So um, we get reintroduced to one of my favorite Mark Miller books, Chrononauts,
Yeah.
about these two kind of, they're little Bill and Ted like. They're
Mhm.
they're they're not like super smart time travelers. They're a little goofy, a little young, but there is kind of an organization you could tell are the good guys that are basically going to them and being like, we need to prove uh, that superheroes did exist at one
Okay.
point. Do you think your time travel can do that? And they're like, oh yeah, we can do that. But here's the thing: it costs a lot of money, and we do not have that kind of budget right now. And they're like, it would cost like several billion dollars. And the person who went to them's like, it's already in your bank account. I transferred it while we were there, while we were talking. So
The person you can tell me later. I wonder if the person who gives them the money is the person thinking about it because I know of
might
somebody
be.
in the Millerverse who can afford that.
Right. And so they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's suit up." Now we can only go, I think they said 300 seconds is the time they could spend there, and they're like, "We've got to figure out really fast
Yeah.
if superheroes exist to kind of prove it." Because they're trying to get somebody on their side that needs convincing that
Okay.
this was a thing. And so this is a really cool moment where they go to New York in 1985, but they say, at this time it wasn't even called New York. That was a thing that they made us think. They look up at a building, and it looks very much like the Daily Planet, and it suddenly gets attacked by a giant monster, and a in the distance, a blurry cape figure kind of shoots through the
What?
sky. So, very interesting. Now, that is how the book begins. But I will say, whoever your favorite Mark Miller verse character is not safe. Doesn't matter who it is. Um, so there is a lot of death in this, thanks to Nemesis and his kind of the people that he's working for. You know, he's kind of spearheading this, like, get rid of the heroes, but there's a whole organization of
Yeah.
people who are doing it too.
Well, is it the fraternity that Wesley from Warren is part of?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's those guys. Okay.
No one's safe. Even characters you're like, there's no way they kill them. They are not safe as well. But we do get reintroduced to Hit Girl in this one
Okay.
as well, and she's a lot older. She's
Sure.
driving a car. She's an adult at this point, and she maybe gets recruited by one of the sides by another familiar character. You're gonna have to see,
Oh, what a reader I
but
know.
all that to say is, even I will say, I won't say what it is. I would say characters that appeared within the past 2 years of books are not safe because they're going after the newer heroes that are emerging,
Yeah.
and ones that you think like, there's a number one on the spine of that book. He's going to do another volume unless there's some big time reset at the end of this series. Um, there's a bunch of books I have in mind that are no longer getting a volume two
Oh
because
man.
there's no characters left in that universe. So, all that to say, big game number two, fantastic, just brutal, fantastic art, and just super compelling because you don't know what's going to happen next. So, that is our A cover. And then we have our Lionel Francis U variant as well.
Yeah, when you were telling me about it before we started, I was wondering, is this Mark Miller's way to, like, because everybody, he's done so many books, and everybody's always wondering, is he going to do a volume two to this series or that series? Maybe this is his way of like quieting that crowd and saying, nope, no more volume two because they're dead now.
Yeah,
Like,
those
I
characters
don't know.
are no longer
Yeah,
around.
right. All right, so next up for me is Marvel Unleashed number one, and this one was so much fun. It was really, I had a good time reading. It was enjoyable. So the story begins with Craven the Hunter capturing Lockjaw. There's a nice like two-page thing where they kind of like fight with each other, but he eventually just injects him with a bunch of tranquilizers because Lockjaw's huge and kidnaps him. And then the story shifts, and we see Lucky, the pizza dog. He's in an alley. He had gotten out of the house or out of the apartment. He's in the alley behind the place, looking for pizza. He's like, "There's got to be some pizza somewhere," and he is approached by two dogs named Juniper and then D Dog. And it's funny too. The entire issue, like the animals are talking to each other with word balloons, and we're reading what they're saying. The whole thing. And so it's we know exactly what they're thinking. They're just talking to each other like normal. So Juniper tells Lucky that, hey, my person has gone missing. They've been gone for a long time. I'm really worried. And we know that you have some inroads to some heroes. So can you see if they can help us find my person? We also learn about D Dog because D Dog is a new character, a new animal character in this. We learned that D Dog, she is a stray. She's been abandoned, and she sort of uses that experience as a way to say, "I want to help. I want to help people in need. I want to become the greatest hero in the world." She finds a mask that kind of looks like D-Man's mask, which looks like
Yeah.
a Wolverine mask. And I remember when we talked about this on Comics from the Future, we were wondering if D Dog was D Man's dog. They actually mentioned that, but she's not.
Okay.
But they say, "Is your person D Man because your mask looks like him?" And she's like, who's D Man? I don't know." So it's at least brought up, which was fun. Um, they, it's funny. They go to Avengers Mansion to get the Avengers, and the Avengers are gone. But Jarvis opens the door, and it shows the animals, and they're like, "Hey, Jarvis, we need help. We're the Avengers." But then it shifts to Jarvis's perspective, and he just sees them, and they're all going woof 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 woof. So he's like, "What are you guys doing?" But luckily, Red Wing is in the mansion, and so is Chewie, who is Captain Marvel's Flurkin. Looks like a cat, but it's not really a cat. So Red Wing and Chewie say, "We'll help you." So they go back to Juniper's house. They sniff around. They use their canine senses. But while they're there, Juniper opens the closet, and there's an AIM suit. And Lucky recognizes this, like, oh no, I don't know what that is, but I know that people who wear that suit are bad. And but they still go searching for him anyway. The scent takes them to this AIM warehouse where it's a really funny it's a really funny sequence where they kind of like fight some AIM guys. And AIM guys are always written like it's supposed to be advanced idea mechanics, like the most technologically advanced organization, but the AIM guys are always written as really stupid.
Yeah.
And they're written this way too. It's a really funny sequence. And of course, the animals are all talking to themselves while they're fighting, but then from the AIM guys' perspective, they're just barking and screeching and everything. So they realize that the scent led them to the suit, not to the person. So then they regain the scent and they find where they find Lockjaw. They find this cave and they find Lockjaw and they find that Juniper's person who does work for AIM is working with Craven to use Lockjaw's powers to open a portal that will allow Blackheart to come through into Earth, Blackheart and his army. And they realize that they may be in over their head, and they realize that maybe there's another hero that they need to call in. And I won't tell you who it is. If you look at the cover, you can probably figure it out, but I won't tell you who it is. But they realize who they need in order to fight a demon, basically. So it was just a really fun issue, just like it's not Pet Avengers. I know that's been a
Yeah.
series before, but it's basically Pet Avengers because there's so many of them and there's going to be more. So just really like it was funny. Like I laughed while I was reading it. I had a good time reading it. So yeah, there is our A cover right there. Just all the characters that we see or will see in this series. We got a couple cool variants as well. We've got this Ron Lim Red Wing variant. Very cool. Red Wing's kind of like their unofficial leader, I guess, because out of all of them, he's actually had experience in the field with the Avengers.
Yeah.
So he knows what to look for. He knows how the bad guys operate, that kind of thing. We have this really cool Chang variant. I really like that one quite a bit. And then we have another Miss Minutes variant.
I like how this one is appropriate though, because she's walking
Yeah,
dogs.
she's walking dogs. Yeah, so just another really, really fun series. I think it's gonna be maybe like 4 or 5 issue miniseries.
Yeah.
It was really, really fun.
Okay, next up for me is our issue number 2 for Night Terrors Titans. So this one's really interesting, and not a whole lot to say about it. Like a lot of these, this does wrap up their 2 issue miniseries in the Nightmare realm and all that. But when we covered issue number 1 of this, my biggest question was we were following a character.
Right.
We weren't following any singular one of the Titans. It was a girl who kind of, when we initially found her, she was being chased by some things.
Mhm.
And as she went through this tower, she found the different rooms with a different Titan in each of them. Um, and so, every time I was like, "Oh, is it Donna Troy?" No, they found Donna Troy.
Yeah.
Oh, is this Raven? No, they found Raven. Um, in this one, that's actually a big part of it, which I was glad to be like, okay, good, I didn't miss something in
Yeah,
the
because
first
we
one.
both thought we were going crazy. Like, should we know who this is? Why
Yeah.
did we not know? But apparently, we weren't supposed to at the time.
And I don't want to give away who this girl is. Um, but I'll say, for one, people will not guess it in a million years. Um, and I was trying to say, is this a first appearance of a character? Um, to some extent, yes, but in a different form.
Okay.
So and it's crazy. Like I wish I could say it, but I feel like that was some of the fun of me reading it.
Sure.
Was being like, what is
Yeah,
this
right.
really who this person is?
Interesting.
Um, and it looks like that is going to be a she is going to be integrated into the main Titans book. I would guess
Okay.
it'd be hard to get away from it at this point.
Oh,
Uh,
golly.
so, but I will say that um, her name is not Joanne, but she likes to be called. She's decided that's what she likes her name to be.
Okay.
But also, did we know that the new Titans Tower is built out of? It's in Bloodhaven, but it used to be a prison.
I
We
don't.
might have known that, but they go into more depth of that too, because they have to go through the kind of nightmare version of the Titans Tower, and they talk about this was actually a prison in Bloodhaven and all this stuff. I thought that's really interesting.
I need to go back. If they mention it, it's probably in Titans #1.
Yeah.
But I don't remember that. But yeah, they may have mentioned it.
Yeah, so I just thought that was really interesting, but that is Titans. Night Terror's Titans #2, wrapping up that 2-issue miniseries. And we've got some variants for this one as well. So we have this Ward variant, which gives me very like HR Giger creepy vibes. Yeah. We've got this. Uh, this is by Martinez, which is very cool. And we have this 1 in 25 Fernandez variant that we're selling for $12.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah. And this scene kind of happens. The Titans do face off against the nightmare versions of themselves.
Very cool.
So it's really cool.
All right, so next up for me is Batman the Brave and the Bold #4. Originally wanted to bring this up because this is a Night Terrors tie-in. It's the only Night Terror. It's the only book that isn't labeled Night Terrors, but is still related to Night Terrors, and that's the Stormwatch story. But the first story is called Enter the Abyss, and it's written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, who have done a bunch of stuff lately. But the art is by Kelly Jones. So, and I think it's because of that art it made me really feel like it felt like it was a like mid '90s issue of Detective Comics, like a nice one and done. And it's a very supernatural story too. So people are disappearing in Gotham, and Batman finds the woman responsible for it. She's not human. She says that she was born before anything existed, basically. So she's this supernatural being that has existed longer than time itself, basically. She was born in a place called the Dark Garden. She managed to use her abilities to. She says she dug a hole from her world to Earth, basically, a long, long time ago. And when that happened, that she took on human form. She did that. She got into I want to say the real world, but into Earth, into our world, basically. And it was a long time ago, and she got stuck. And over the years, they built a town on top of the hole she dug, essentially, and that town at the time was called Gotham. So it's like another old school story of Gotham. It's the town that would become Gotham later on. But the Dark Garden wanted to pull her back in, but it couldn't. So it started to take everybody around her, and that's what it's doing now. Is like it. Anytime she gets close to somebody, the Dark Garden that she came from snatches those people into itself, into this. Basically, just imagine it as like a big black hole. It's hard to sort of explain, but if you read it, it'll kind of make a little bit more sense. She gets Batman's help. She takes him to the hole. It's an actual hole that they go down in, which then sort of takes them to this supernatural dark garden. And they're wanting to save everybody who's down there. And I won't tell you how it all ends, but it's very eerie, supernatural, that kind of thing. And like I said, with Kelly Jones on art, it really did make me feel like I was reading a mid '90s issue of Detective Comics. So it was really, really interesting. What's interesting though too is at the very end it said to be continued in Batman Beyond Neo Gothic #1, which has already come out. I think we've had 1 or 2 issues. And the same thing is kind of happening there. People are being taken into the depths of Gotham.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't get the sense, at least at the time, at least after the first issue, that it was anything supernatural. So maybe it is. So maybe it's the same kind of thing. We'll have to wait and see as that miniseries plays out a little bit more. The second story is the Stormwatch story. That's the one that ties into Night Terrors a little bit, but really it's just the various members of Stormwatch. We've seen some of them, especially in the Ravager 2-issue miniseries. We've seen some of them in the awake world, in the real world. Well, now we get to see the ones who actually did fall asleep. We get to see what they deal with in the Nightmare Realm. There's another one called Harcourt Second Life, and it's the return of Amelia Harcourt into comics. It's not her first appearance. She first appeared in whatever run of Suicide Squad from like 2016, but in that run she was killed. She comes back. She doesn't. She's already been brought back in this, and now she's on a quest to find out who killed her. And she's got some strange powers too, which is kind of interesting. So that was a really good one. And then there's a story called My Family, which is a really, it's only a few pages long, a black and white story, just like all the other ones have been. In this one, the whole Bat family is fighting Hush and Bane in Gotham, and they almost kill Batman to the point where he's like slipping away, and he runs into, or not runs into, but he sees his younger self in almost the afterlife, basically. And his younger self is really sad because he couldn't save his parents. and he talks to his younger self and says, it's not your fault. And look over there, we have a new family now, and that kind of helps bring it back to life and that kind of thing. So it was really poignant short story there. So yeah, just another really good bunch of stuff in Batman Brave and the Bold #4. Just some good stories there. So we have our A cover here, and then we have the Kale new variant, and that is Amelia Harcourt right there. Her story was really good. I want to see what
I
happens.
saw James Gunn post something
Yeah,
about
I
that
think he tweeted
because
that cover. Yeah.
yeah, because she's been in Peacemaker and
Yep.
he's also married to her,
Yep.
so it's a lot of things.
Yep.
Okay, next up is one that I also found surprising and how much I enjoyed it. This is Realm of X. So this is another Fall of X book. And during the Hellfire Gala, I'll begin. This is by Torun Gronbeck and Diogenes Neves. And during the Hellfire Gala, you know, Professor X basically was like, everybody's got to get off of Earth. And so he like mentally sent them through all the portals, and we don't know where a lot of them ended up. Some of them were able to overcome that, and we know they're kind of like hiding out and stuff.
Yeah.
But this follows the characters Magic, Dust, Mirage, Marrow, Typhoid Mary, and Curse. And where did they end up? And I'll say it's really fun. So, not to give away the whole thing, but they do end up on Vanheim, which is, like Norse mythology, all of that. One thing that's cool is they're wearing their Hellfire Gala garb, which just fits in. They suddenly
Oh yeah.
look like very like period
Very
piece.
regal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's got like the big like metal shoulder pad, but with like this dress, and they're all. Uh, it's cool to see them too, like in those costumes, but like continuing. They don't immediately like switch out or anything.
Yeah.
But in this, they kind of find themselves like in the middle of this battle between these warriors and these like giant orcs, and they kind of have to figure out if we get involved, whose side are we on? Because they can't tell what's going on. But when the fight settles, one of the like big warrior men is like, "Oh no! Like, thank you for helping us, but you all represent a prophecy of the beginning of the end of our
Oh
world."
geez.
And yeah, so you know, we need to figure all this out. And four of them, but there's more than four there, are part of this prophecy. And so they take them back and kind of explain it to them. But Curse, who I wasn't too familiar with her character, she's like a younger girl. She's like pink, has like spiky spikes on her head. Um, she gets separated from them, and they're also through this whole thing trying to find out where she is, but they're like, she's not going to be found unless she wants to be found. And so it's this interesting where their story split, and the kind of big villain of the thing, Curse, ends up with her, and the rest of the group ends up with these other warriors. We find out more about this prophecy, and it's like they show them statues of these people that like one of their architects created hundreds of years ago, and it looks just like them. So it's interesting because it's like it's a Fall of X tie-in, but it's like a whole new adventure going
Yeah.
on. That's like, well, they're out of that danger, so what kind of stuff they're going to find themselves in this? And it's just really cool. Magic is great, kind of the lead character in this. But I'll say she is not one of the four prophesied
Oh,
characters,
interesting.
and she doesn't love this.
Oh, okay.
Part of her's like, well, I didn't want to be that anyways,
Yeah.
and
I
all
would
that.
think that she would be. Yeah.
Yeah, and also her powers are not working, so just
Oh,
another
yikes.
little thing to throw in there. But I thought this was really good. I like Magic a lot. She was a character I didn't know a whole lot about a few years ago, but every time she's popped up, I've just really enjoyed her
Yeah.
character. And this continues just how great they are. And if you're looking for a easy to digest book that's in continuity still going on and stuff, but kind of starts a new adventure, this is a great one.
Nice.
So Realm of X, and this is the only cover we have for this.
Very cool. Well, kind of keeping in the same theme, Invincible Iron Man #9 is out on Wednesday. And this takes place right after the Hellfire Gala as well. So we wanted to spotlight this one because there's been a lot of talk over the last couple months about the upcoming wedding between Tony Stark and Emma Frost. It does not happen in this issue, but I feel like the road to that wedding starts in this book.
Mm.
And it's not far away. I think we have X-Men 26 coming out real soon, and then Iron Man number 10 in a month. So it's not like it's far away at all. But I feel like everything that's gonna that plays into that kind of gets started here. Um, Tony has been defeated by Fei Long and the Stark Sentinels, and obviously Emma's been through the ringer because the Hellfire Gala like just happened, just a little bit before this issue takes place. Um, because Fei Long owns the Stark patents and Stark Industries and everything, he's forced to give his current armor, the Mark 70 armor. There's been 70 armors, I guess. He has to give the Mark 70 suit back to Fei Long, but before he does that, he guts it. Like he strips all the tech out of it and basically just gives him the
A shell.
shell. Yeah. Um, at the same time, Rhodey is in jail because of the events of what happened. Um, because of the events that happened a couple issues back. I don't quite remember the full details around. I read it, but I don't remember exactly what it was they were doing. But Rhodey is in jail because of that, and Fei Long is kind of like made sure, like it's like when you see in a movie, like there's a guy on the outside that can control the warden, who then controls what goes
Mhm.
on in the prison. Well, Rhodey's getting the stuffing beat out of him on an ongoing basis in prison, and the warden won't do anything about it. She-Hulk actually goes to talk to the Ward. I love when She-Hulk has popped up in this series several times in the role of Tony's attorney, and it's always great because it's a little bit more serious. She's a little
Mhm.
bit more serious. She's a little bit more like attorney focused. It's always been real good. So she's in this as a way to try to get Rhodey out. Um, so all that, just nothing is going good for Tony. Nothing is going well for Emma. But they both come together and they realize that the only way to get the revenge against the people who've been beating them down is to form an alliance. Now they don't. There's not a scene where they sit down and say, "Okay, I've got this idea. If we get married, then we have this control." It's nothing like that at all. But they do talk to each other, and they do say that they agree to form an alliance to their deaths. So they want to just take out the people who have wronged them, and they know they have to do a real special kind of team up to do that. So after you read this issue, you will start to form an idea as to why they get married. There is a scene where they do go to the Hellfire Club, so that's going to be a factor in it too. And I will not tell you who, but we do learn who the new White King of the Hellfire Club is. And it's the last page reveal, and it's really interesting. So, just really good. Like I've loved this entire series so far. I'm really intrigued by the wedding. I think Tony and Emma teaming up for whatever reason, and the wedding for whatever they get married is going to be really cool. So it all kind of gets started in this one right here. So highly recommend that. And this is the only cover we have for it too, just this A cover right here.
Very cool. I'm excited to read that one.
It's really good.
Okay, next up I have Amazing Spider-Man issue 32. So this is a kind of a new beginning of a big story going on. I told Matt all about it before, so I don't want to give away too much of it because there's a lot of really cool reveals in it. You can see on the cover we've got Craven and we've got Queen Goblin and Spider-Man. So we saw at the end of issue 31 that Queen Goblin and Craven kind of have a fling going on,
Hmm.
but we're like, kind of, where did that come
Yeah,
from? Well, this does answer that, and it's a lot more sinister than just two people liking each other. They have some plans, and those plans involve uh, Craven, because I always forget this is the son of Craven,
it
but he looks
is.
identical to
Yeah,
Craven.
I feel like because it is the son, but I feel like that they just call him Craven. They're like, oh, let's not really let's not talk
Yeah.
about that. It's Craven, but it's Craven's son.
Yeah, he mentions his father a few times. That's why I was thinking
Okay,
about
yeah.
it. But Craven wants um kind of he always wants like some kind of justification or like some great uh thing that he must do.
He always feels like he has to improve
Yeah, I
himself.
think proving himself is what it
Yeah.
is. And he wants to, he talks about like his father donned the spider suit and conquered that, but he wants to be the one to conquer Spider-Man's greatest villain, and that is Green Goblin. Well, Norman Osborn right now is not Green Goblin. He got his sins removed
Yeah.
during the Sin Eater storyline in the previous volume, and how is he going to go about defeating Green Goblin when Green Goblin doesn't even exist now? So him and the Queen Goblin have some very uh, dark, maybe even magical plan of achieving this. And how is Spider-Man going to get in the middle of it? Uh, and I will say this does lead into the new storyline, Spider-Man's first hunt. And we're all like, why is Spider-Man like hunting? And what's all of that? That is all explained in this, and it is pretty shocking. And I'm actually really intrigued to see where this storyline goes. So that is Amazing Spider-Man number 32. Plus, gotta mention Patrick Gleason back on
Yes.
art. If for no other reason, pick it up because of how fantastic the art is in this. There's just some scenes that are just phenomenal.
Yeah,
So
I didn't read it. I flipped through it, and yeah, Patrick Gleason, yeah,
yeah,
real
he
deal.
draws some great Craven scenes in
Hmm.
this. Just so much fun. So that is our A cover. We also have this is our Cubert variant. I believe this is the Gods variant. We have this Basil Dua variant with Black Cat, who is also in this issue. A very fun way.
That's lucky.
Yep, that's Lucky the
Yeah.
Pizza Dog eating some pizza. We also have the Disney 100 variant with Ghost Duck, I
Yeah.
guess. Spider Ghost Duck.
Spider Daisy?
Spider Daisy.
Is it? Yeah, I don't know.
Then we also have the really nice 1 in 25 Patrick Gleason variant that we're selling for $15. And this one is a big one, but it is
Oh.
so cool. This is the 1 in 50 Pork Homage variant that we're selling
Ah,
for $50.
I
And this one is
love
just
that one.
so cool.
Yeah, I love that. But you know that Gleason variant, based on what you told me about the book, that cover makes more sense.
Yeah, this is a thing, and you'll read it when you understand when you'll
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 read it.
understand it
Yeah.
when you understand
Yeah.
it.
All right, so I've got a couple of Night Terrors books. Night Terrors Detective Comics #2. Like we said, this week is the last of these 2-issue miniseries. So this is one of them, Detective Comics. So in this one, Commissioner Gordon does learn I guess he's not commissioner anymore. Gordon learns the identity
Jim.
of the good people of Gotham, who were the three people. Again, this is all in the Nightmare realm, but the three people who last issue made these wishes of these like cosmic beings to one wished for power, one wished for knowledge, and one wished for wealth. So he learns who they are in this, like their actual names, I mean. And this leads him to a showdown with the one who asked for power, who is the one who is kind of parading around looking like the suit of armor that Gordon used to wear during his brief stint as Batman. So they have a big fight in the street. Um, After all of that's said and done, he also learns the identity of the one who asked for knowledge. And I guess I probably should have seen it coming, but I didn't. And it was pretty surprising when it found out. And again, it's all in the nightmare realm, so it's not like it's real anyway. But it was surprising. I will say in this book, there is some really disturbing imagery because last issue, Gordon was sort of caught in the blast, I guess you could say, of when these three people were granted their wishes. So his whole body is almost like glass, and it keeps shattering. And during the fight with this guy, like half of his face shatters off. I mean, it's like it's really disturbing, and there's some disturbing imagery with the other one that he finds later. They're all like broken and it's really creepy. But we also learn a little bit about the beings that granted these wishes. They're called the Pentapriests. We sort of learn where they came from, and this might not be the last that we see of
I was
them,
about to say this
based
feels like a
on
lot of world building for the last issue of a 2-issue miniseries.
there's it's not blatant, but there's a tiny something at the end of the story that makes me think they might show up again at some point. So just really interesting, really dark, and like I said, the imagery is kind of gross and weird, but really good one there. So that's our A cover. We have a couple variants here. This is the Bernard Chang variant. There might be a reason she's on the cover there. This is the Kyle Hotz variant.
Very disturbing.
That is very disturbing. And then we have this 1 in 25 Santucci variant that we're selling for $20. That's the guy right there. He's weird. He's creepy.
Oh, I wouldn't have suspected
Yeah.
that. Okay, next up for me, I've got Star Wars Dr. Aphra number 35. And this is a Dark Droids tie-in. And this is a fun issue. It kind of brings back some of the characters that have not been in Aphra for a while, like Domina Tag, who Aphra kind of has a fling with. But apparently Tag had created when she was very young her own kind of battle droids that uh she's very smart, and actually her parents were like, hey, those are really good, like we might want to use your design or whatever. Well, what happens when one of these droids shows up and it is one of the infected droids and starts wreaking havoc? Just really interesting, but a lot of this too is pretty personal story to Aphra, as she's having trouble making connections with people. Just a really good issue. Not a whole lot to say about it, but another just a fun entry in the Dart Droids and in Aphra. So there is our A cover. Then we have our Return of the Jedi Sprouse variant
Very cool.
with, I believe, yep, the ATST getting crushed between two logs. We have this really nice Giuseppe Camicoli, uh, Clone Wars 15th anniversary variant with Asajj Ventress. And love this one.
Oh man, that was great.
This
I
is
love
the
the
Salvador Larroca kind of homage variant
yeah,
that I just think this is fantastic.
yeah. Those homage covers are great. All right, so I've got Moon Knight City of the Dead #2. This is continuing the mini series that we met Scarlet Scarab last issue. Moon Knight is in the city of the dead looking for a young boy named Khalil. So he and Scarlet Scarab are still doing that, still scouring the city of the dead looking for him. Yeah, spoiler, they didn't find him last issue.
Oh man.
But so and it almost kind of feels like a sort of a standard issue of Batman in a way, and that's not a bad thing, but like where they're going through the city and like beating up guys, trying to get information, looking for a lost kid, that kind of thing. But it's all in the city of the dead. It's not in like the real world. It's in the afterlife essentially. So as they're trying to find him, they get in some fights. During one fight, like a bar fight, we learned that Scarlet Scarab can actually sort of alter the city's architecture a bit. She can make like the floors move and the walls come up and stuff to a point. Her powers have limits. But we also learned how she became the Scarlet Scarab. That when she arrived at the city, after she was killed, and we learned about that last issue. When she got to the city of the dead, her heart was weighed on the scales of justice, and it was in perfect balance, which was she said that was surprising me
That's
because
going.
she was a mercenary with Mark Spector, so she was surprised. So the god, it's the one that was in the show, Tailwort. Remember the hippo looking
Oh
god?
yeah.
Tower.
That one was fun.
Yeah, Tailwort. They so that god offered her the power of the Scarlet Scarab, but so they're still looking. They still don't find Khalil, but what they do find is a whole bunch of other kids that have been locked up. And again, this is in the city of the dead, so all these kids have holes in their chests where their hearts have been
Oh,
removed. And it turns out that there's like the bad guys that captured them. They're using their hearts on the scales of justice, the kids' hearts, so they don't have to use their own. It's kind of like when you have to pee in a cup, but you don't want like when you have to take a drug. I mean, not that I know or but
we've seen
that
TV
but
shows that where
yeah,
that
right. In
happens.
TV shows, like yeah. So that was really cool. And then on top of all that, Moon Knight and Scarlet Scarab have to face off against a whole host of Moon Knight's former villains that he has killed and sent to the City of the Dead. They all team up against him, so that's a whole big fight too. And we also learn the identity of the Jackal Knight, who is sort of the main antagonist of this whole thing, and that was pretty surprising too. So just another really interesting issue of Moon Knight of this miniseries. I liked it quite a bit. Scarlet Scarab is really cool. So there's our A cover right there. We have our Harley variant right there. And we have this Rose Besh variant. That is Rose Besh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rose Besh right there. And then we have a couple of incentives, a 1 in 25 Sienkiewicz variant that we're selling for $35. And then a 1 in 10 Ferreira design variant of Scarlet Scarab. And we are selling that for $9.
Very cool. Yeah, it's cool how the synergy between, even though the show's been over for a while,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of elements that are like, if you watch the show, like you can
Yeah.
envision this stuff really
Yeah.
well. Okay, next up is my last Night Terrors book. This is Night Terrors Action Comics number 2. So just like the first one, this has 2 stories in it. The first one being a Power Girl story, and really interesting where Power Girl is kind of in a dream within a dream type thing. And this one, I'll people will have to kind of suss out what the overall thing of it means, especially the ending. But Power Girl keeps waking up, and she's like, do you remember the first one where she's kind of in like a spaceship type thing? It almost feels like a little like matrixy, where like she's
Oh
there's some
yeah,
tech stuff to
yeah.
it too. She keeps waking up, and oh, she's in her bed, and there's her roommate and stuff. And then oh, turns out that was part of a nightmare. And she says she does this, and she does this. She stops counting it 547 times. She
Okay.
wakes up, and she keeps trying to get out of this dream. Um, but that's where the thing that I don't quite 100% understand, and people will have to read it to determine for themselves, because she wakes up and she's like in this spaceship, and she says something like it's Kryptonian, or something like that, and she smashes a part of it and is basically like, I threw a lot of this into the ocean. But some of that might actually show up in the real world, which I'm not sure how that's going to work, but you'll have to read it to find out. But it's a really interesting story. There's also another thing that I don't quite understand is another character. She wakes up another character. I didn't know you could do that.
Hmm.
But you'll have to read to find
Yeah.
out. But then the second story in this is the Cyborg Superman story, and it has a
Oh
fun
yeah.
twist to it because um, it's mainly about the 2 kids that Superman adopted, and what is the worst nightmare for them is Cyborg Superman turns Metropolis in their nightmares into War World. They're like, he's like,
Oh
you never
no.
actually left.
Oh
This is
man.
you're still there, and all of your family's dead, and we're still in War World. Which I was like, that's really messed up to me.
Yeah.
Um, but here's the thing: why is Cyborg Superman here? Is he also in a nightmare? So you'll have to read it to see.
Hmm.
But whose nightmare are we actually in? You'll have to read it to find
Can
out.
Cyborg Superman
Even
fall asleep?
oh, I don't know. Maybe he just gets. Oh yeah, you go on a computer and you go to sleep.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah, yeah. He's got a little part that he
Yeah,
goes to sleep, but if you shake him, the
that's right.
screen
Yeah,
will pop
you
back
got to
up.
jiggle his mouse. What?
But overall, that is Action Comic Night Terrors Action Comics number 2. A lot of interesting things, and the Power Girl story wasn't bad. It just has it. It has like an epilogue to that story
Yeah.
that says will be continued in Power Girl number 1.
Right.
So out of a Night Terrors, we might get something that's I don't know, really interesting.
I think
So
there's been a few of these miniseries that it's like, okay, this is done, but we're gonna set up a little something else too. So
yeah.
yeah.
So then we've got our Tyler Kirkham variant. Very cool. We've got our uh this is the Colic variant. Kind of an homage of like a Christopher Reeve
It reminds me
Superman.
of the cover to Superman 78, I think number one.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe one of, I don't remember if this is a variant or not, but
Yeah.
it reminds me of that. It's that same pose of him.
And then we have a 1 in 25 Georgiev variant that we're selling for $10.
All right, I've got another Night Terrors book. This is Night Terrors Harley Quinn with that crazy cover right there. So she is still continuing her adventure through the multiverse, of course, in the Nightmare Realm. But in this one, she winds up on Earth Zero, like the main Earth, where she's a full-fledged member of the Justice League as the hero known as the heroic Harlequin. She's got a costume and a cape and everything. What's cool about after she goes there, the book almost becomes kind of meta, and it looks like a Silver Age book. Um, there's the art is a little bit retro looking. She has thought bubbles, but she sees the thought, like she recognizes the thought. She's like, "Oh, are we doing thought bubbles again? Are they coming back?" So it's very retro style. She goes up, she fights a Silver Age version of Brainiac. So he's got like the purple and the purple shorts and the
That's
and
cool.
the whatever. Um, but she does eventually find out who is behind this multiversal journey of hers in the nightmare realm, who's kind of behind it all. So that was pretty interesting too. So just It's it was a little bit confusing, a little bit towards the end, but it was still really fun to read, especially like Harley Quinn done in the style of a Silver Age superhero, and the book looks like a Silver Age book. So still, if you're a Harley Quinn fan, I think you will really, really like this one. So there's our A cover there. We've got a couple of variants as well. We've got Tula Lotte variant right there, and then this one is really nice. This is our Jenny Frizen variant. Like that
Okay, and next up for me, I've got. Does anybody recognize this one?
one. Mm-mm.
Nope, no one does.
Nope.
Oh well.
Doesn't look familiar.
This is the facsimile of Spider-Man 300. So this one is going to be kind of give you a heads up. This one is going to be pretty hot this week. Facsimiles already do really well, at least at our store.
Nice.
I think that's a really fun thing that
Sure.
people are into reading some of the classic stories. But this one, more than a lot of them, is so iconic. This is kind of like the Hulk 181 that we
Mm-hmm.
had and stuff. Very big, and people are going to be all about getting this. And this is, I believe, yeah, this is 6.99. What mostly I wanted to show you is the foil
Ooh.
variant for this. So here's the thing, and we talked about it earlier with Thor. This foil variant also was priced 6.99, but I believe what happened was when they were putting it together, they used the same file,
All right.
but like, oh, we're gonna do
Yeah.
this on foil cardstock, but they didn't change the image with the price. So this is another one you need to check with your store about pricing for it. It will be probably a couple dollars more because the price you see on there is actually close to what we paid for the book.
Yeah.
So
What's interesting is it says 6.99 on the barcode, but unlike that one, the 6.99 is not right there.
yeah, so they kind of did it right, and then
Yeah,
they
they kind
also didn't
of.
do it right. So check with your store about pricing for this because this one, even more than the other one, is going to go super fast. Everybody's going to be wanting this foil Spider-Man 300 cover. And if you don't know, first appearance of Venom, it's
Oh yeah,
it's a big-ish
heard of
story.
that guy.
Yeah, so that
I don't
is
know who the artist is, but it looks all right, I guess.
Todd
Todd
McFarlane,
Todd something.
Seth MacFarlane of
Seth.
Family
Oh
Guy.
right, yeah, he's everywhere, right? All right, so my last one is Night Terrors Angel Breaker number 2. So in this one, Angel Breaker and Raptor, they realize that their close proximity to the Asclepius drive, I guess, which is the MacGuffin that they were going after in the first issue. It's a machine that can basically, it actually kind of mimics the abilities of the Nightmare Stone. It can like reach in and get people's memories and dreams, stuff like that. But it's a machine that does it. They were trying to get that from Cobra, the organization. Not that Cobra, but they were trying to get that in the last issue. They realized in this one that their proximity to that device is actually what kept them awake while
Hmm.
everybody else in the world was asleep. But it's also what allowed Nanny Gillo to come into the real world, which we saw in the last issue was a spooky, like they called it an old wives' tale, like a spooky story that they were told as kids. Well, that evil
Yeah,
character,
put on the
yeah,
cover.
made it to the real world. So they split up with the kids they're with because it's like an academy where these kids are being taught how to be like terrorists or something. I'm not sure. It's kind of like Strange Academy, but instead of a magic school, it's a school for evil organization, I guess.
It's almost like the school that Black Widow was in, kind of the
Kind of, yeah.
assassins
That's
group.
probably a better example. So they split up with the kids. Angel Breaker goes one way, Raptor goes the other way, and they take a couple of the kids with them. But Nanny Gillo is sort of floating around, the base that they're in, making them see things that aren't there. There's also some really disturbing imagery in this one. There's not a lot of blood or anything, but there's a couple of things that I was really surprised that they put in just a regular old DC monthly book.
Mhm.
But it was a little bit weird. It's funny though because the ending to this is different than the other miniseries, and we've talked before about how it's no spoiler, but at the end of a lot of these miniseries, the heroes wake up because then they have to go deal with the main threat, right? Well, in this one, I'll just go ahead and tell you because it's not a big deal. They end up destroying the they either destroy it or I think they destroy the device they're going after, which once it gets destroyed, they can then fall asleep. So whereas a lot of these other series, the heroes have woken up. In this one, they actually fall asleep and succumb to the nightmare wave, which I thought was really interesting. And sorry, it's like I said, it's not really a big spoiler because that's kind of the end of the road for these characters, at least for now. So I just thought that was really interesting. You know, it was a nice, you know, it was complete opposite of the other book. So we have our A cover right here, and then we have a couple of variants. This is the Ivan Tao
That's
variant.
really cool.
Yeah, I like that. That's Nanny Gilla right there. And then we have this really cool Steven Segovia variant of Angel Breaker. I really like that design right there.
Wow, and that is it, I believe,
Yep.
unless you've got something else you're
I'm
hiding.
tapped out.
Okay, me too. So that is it for this week's early comics preview show. Thank you so much for watching. Like we said throughout the show, you can head over to infinityflux.net. You can pre-order any books. You can order these books that we talked about during this show. Just any of that good stuff, and use the code I love Flux at checkout to get 10% off of your order. Join us again coming up on Wednesday.
Yep.
For our top comics to pre-order in a flash, we'll be going over some of the biggest comics that we want to make sure you don't miss out on. Get the earliest head start you can on pre-ordering some big books. And I believe that is it for us this time. So before we go, I do want to mention that there are other books coming out. We actually didn't go over all of them.
That's right.
But we do want to mention some of the other ones that are coming out, like
Black Panther #3.
we've got Captain America Finale one shot,
Daredevil and Echo #4.
Deadpool number 10,
The Fantastic Four annual for this year.
Planet of the Apes number 5,
Storm #4.
Venom number 24.
Batman Beyond Neo Gothic #2. So that answers my question earlier about if there's been one. So yeah, #2 comes out this week.
Batman The Adventure Continues Season 3 number 7.
Dark Knights of Steel, the last issue, finally. The
Yeah.
issue 12 of 12 is out this week.
DC Ruby 7 of 7, so final issue of that one
Yep.
as well.
Unstoppable Doom Patrol #5.
Battle Chasers number 12.
Beast of Bower Boulevard #1.
Bone Orchard Tenement number 3.
Darkwing Duck #8.
Dead Romans number 6.
Firepower #26.
Ice Cream Man number 36. 6 is in this one.
Indigo Children #6.
King Spawn 25. Take that.
Yeah. Kong the Great War #3.
Which is divisible by 6.
True.
Yep. Mighty Barbarians number 5.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers #111.
That one just stands on its own.
Right.
New Burn number 10.
No One #5.
Rogue Sun number 15.
Scrapper #2.
Star Trek number 11.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds, The Scorpius Run #1.
Stranger Things Tales from Hawkins number 3.
TMNT Stranger Things #2. A lot of Stranger Things too.
Yeah. The Addams Family, The Bodies issue number 1.
The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos #3.
The Rocketeer Den of Thieves number 2.
And Xeno?
Xeno.
Xeno #3.
Like you ended that on a question?
I mean, it could be Xino, could be Exino.
I think it's all whatever you want to call
Xeno,
it.
yeah.
But thank you so much for watching, and until next time,
See ya.
bye.